think that's important for everyone to fall in love with themselves at whatever stage they are in life. And it doesn't matter how old you are or if you did at one point, but if you're not right now, the one that is able to see that when you look in the mirror, then that's when we know there's work to be done. And mind you, it's not like, tick that off the box. I love myself, and every day is easy to do that.
Right.
It's something that we have to, at least for myself, I have to constantly do things to remind me of my magic and my beauty and my power. And when I don't, I can feel that. I can feel myself get shaky and unsteady and insecure and hypercritical and all those things. Yeah, for sure, right? We want to just feel that more, like feel that connection more.
Yeah. Union with the present moment.
Yeah, non-duality, it's just is. How long is this going to be? Like 17 hours? Are we doing Joe Rogan, or is it going to be like a 30-minute?
It's usually like 30 minutes or less.
Okay.
I mean,
how much stamina do I need? Do I need a snack?
Your snack is afterwards.
Okay.
If you earn it.
If I say nice things.
So, what's up, Dharma Glow community? We're going to start this off by saying that we have some Turkish figs in my kitchen.
Is this recording?
It is recording.
Okay, cool.
And if Nikki performs to a certain degree, she will earn some Turkish figs as a surprise. It's not a surprise, but as a treat.
As a treat, yeah.
I mean, we're going to eat Turkish figs no matter what, but, you know, we're going to have some fun with it.
We will see. Might just get kicked out.
So, one of the coolest things about doing Dharma Glow is all the people I get to meet in the wellness, healing, spiritual world. And Nikki was a cool way of like meeting someone because I actually knew her before. So when I think I was on the mailing list for Daybreaker, and I saw they were going on tour with Oprah, and I was like, oh, interesting. And I went to see what that was all about, and there was this organization called Kinergy, like opening that tour as well. So I was like, okay, what's that? And then I looked and saw what they were, and there was this like, how would you describe it? Like a dance, breathing.
Like a lot of that.
Yeah, a lot of that, yeah. And so I did some classes, and they had all these different guides, and Nikki was one of the guides. So I liked it, like, you know, it wasn't something I would really do in public, but I would enjoy doing it in my living room, and I liked it. And I was working with a team at the time, and I was like, let's do some Kinergy sometimes in the morning, because sometimes we did yoga and stuff like that. And everyone's favorite guy was Nikki. So we did a lot of classes with Nikki. And then one day I'm going to an event at my friend Queen's house, and all these people are there. I think I know everybody, maybe except for you and one other person. But I was like, don't we know each other? I was like, don't I know you?
I was
She was like,
shoot, I don't know. I don't think I know you.
She was like, no, I just moved here like a week or two ago or something like that. So I don't think we know each other. And I was like, yeah, but I know you. I know you.
But you were also like very much on the wavelength of like this lifetime, or was it past lifetime? Like it felt like it could have been, which is a whole nother topic, but continue.
We got there later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So long story short, when everyone's going around talking about what they do, she's like, oh, I'm a teacher for this brand called Kinergy. And I was like, Nikki. I was
God, Nikki?
Yes. We've been doing Kinergy together. I've been watching you on my television, my big television.
They don't see that.
Yeah.
That's big.
A big 84 television there. Yeah. And then we were friends after that. So, hey, friend.
Hey, friend.
So like we've been actually creating content for y'all. We've been making like videos of yoga videos, meditation and pranayama that we will be releasing soon as like memberships and courses and stuff like that. But
or it's already released. Maybe they're watching this.
maybe it's already released.
You know, go check it out.
Yeah, maybe now you're just getting to know us after you release the content. This is gonna be a weird episode. I love it. And yeah, Nikki is just like, we're on the same wavelength, right? Like we're both on our path, and we both like to be in nature and to be kind of like free spirits and be aligned and outside the beaten path. So I wanted to have her on to talk about like her road to kind of like becoming Nikki Nie. Because you're definitely on your own path and you're doing things your own way. You're an entrepreneur and a yogi and studying Ayurveda, all the things.
I guess so.
Yeah, so maybe just like start with like where you grew up and then when you first started getting turned on to spiritual things that interested you.
Yeah, I guess we're really going. We are starting at the beginning. I grew up in Southern California in a town called Cerritos, California. And that's where our parents still live. I actually lived there with them a few years ago for a little while. So yeah, that's where I grew up, and I was really into like sports and dance and musical theater and like kind of everything growing up. And when I reached high school, I auditioned for the dance drill team, and that was like a game changer. I like kind of quit everything else and just like focused on dance. And yeah, I feel like that journey was kind of the beginning of it all, and just the sense of like becoming very in tune with my body and physicality. And at that time, I started to kind of get into church. Like I was like just going with my friends to Bible study, and I just loved going on Monday nights and like hearing the live band and like singing and like being with the people, you know.
Got the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, like it felt good. Like I think there's always a part of me that felt called to that. I didn't grow up like going to church much. Both my parents grew up quite like religious and going to church all the time, but they raised me and my brother and sister kind of just, that's not what we did. Not that we didn't believe in God or like prayed or anything like that, but we just didn't go to church. And yeah, I feel like even since then I was like called to having a connection to God in some way. But I got turned off pretty quickly in the sense that as I was like growing up and going into college and like having a boyfriend and all, and going to parties and all the things, like I felt really persecuted in like the lifestyle that I wanted to live as a 18, 19, 20-year-old. And that didn't align with like what the church valued, and made me feel like I was not a good person if I was not behaving in this specific way. And I was like, I ain't down with this. No more church for me. I think I'm a good person, and if I have like alcohol and sex with my boyfriend, like that doesn't seem like a reason enough for me to be going to hell. Like, you know? We're going there already.
Already, we got deep.
So that was kind of like something I put away for a little while, and lived my life as a professional dancer, and really pursued that, and kind of really disconnected with God or spirituality or the divine, however we want to refer to it, and just focused on that, which is the dance industry, just living in LA, you know, being constantly judged and going to auditions and all of that stuff is quite hard on your soul, because everything that is important to you is external. And like all of validation that I was seeking was not coming from myself. It was coming from like what job I was booking, if I was dating somebody, and if they were liked me back or not. And yeah, so I went through kind of this period where I was focused on work, but also just, it felt ungrounded now that I can look back on it. And I just wasn't like anchored. And so after about, it wasn't until my early 30s. So I was probably doing that life for a good 10, 12 or so years. And within that, I was dancing, and I got into aerial, and then I got into fitness, and I got into makeup. So it was like I was performing and also teaching fitness, like group fitness classes, and being a makeup artist. And so all of these things to me were like not connected. And I felt very much like, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm meant to be doing. I'm just like jumping to the next thing all the time. And it feels like, treading water, kind of trying to just not sink. And then, yeah, it was like maybe around like, I was like 34, 33 or something like that. And they opened up a meditation center called The Den that was by my house. And I would ride my bicycle to it, and I got really into it. And there was a couple teachers that I really liked. And one of the teachers in particular was a tantra teacher. And I didn't even really know what that was, but for whatever reason, I was attracted to that style of meditation. So I was going quite regularly. I found Reiki at that time, ended up like doing my Reiki 1 and 2 trainings. And that just like started to just open up like this portal of spirituality, which we know is as vast as we want it to be. And that's kind of what got me started in like looking into something deeper and starting to feel a sense of validation from within rather than from without. That's kind of what geared me towards wanting to study yoga. I'm going down that path.
You said that was in your mid-30s?
Yeah.
And then you got your teacher training and did all that, because I know you go to a lot of trainings at this point.
Yeah, so at some point when I was teaching fitness, I was like enjoying just the last 5 minutes the most. I was like, gosh, I really like this cool down stuff. Just like calm, like the energy is calm in the room. I don't have to be like, because I can be really extra, super energetic, like that comes naturally to me. But it's also quite exhausting to be putting out that frequency every day, all the time for people that really are intense, like that type A, like, and I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to be a yoga teacher. I've got all these other things lined up, but I think I just want to go. I was turning 35 that year. And I was like, I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to go to Bali. I'm going to do a yoga teacher training. I'm going to surf. I'm going to travel, and I'm going to do it all alone, and it's going to be awesome. And so, yeah, that's what I did. And after 4 weeks of a 200-hour yoga teacher training, studying tantra and Hatha yoga, and traveling alone and just exploring all of the external and internal worlds, what I say all the time is that what I took away from that experience, like the biggest lesson, was that I learned and that I fell in love with myself. And at 35, now that I'm almost 40, at 35, now it seems so young and so precious. But at that time, I felt like, oh man, I'm so old. I'm still single. I don't have kids. All my friends are doing the things. And I'm like this old lady that's like felt like I needed to have all those other things already in life. But it really gave me this sense of peace of like, I love my life. I love myself. If it's just me for the rest of my life, as far as like having, that, not having a romantic partnership or not having a kid, I was like, it's going to be okay. Like, this is a good life. I know how to make myself happy. I can go eat wherever I want to eat, and I could take a nap if I want to take a nap, and I could wake up at 5 a.m. if I want to, it was just, I really was enjoying my life. And I didn't really, again, think that I was going to teach yoga, but it was just like, it was drawing me. And I got asked to come back to Bali after my travels and intern on the next teacher training. And it was an offer like I couldn't refuse. And that's when I started teaching after I did that. So it was like really cool because I got to do a repeat of my 200-hour. Because anyone that does any kind of training, that you only can extract so much from it.
It's a lot of information.
It's so much information. So many of those things went over my head. And then doing it again like 4 months later and being in those lectures, knowing where we were going, I feel like I really was able to extract more, to like let more be embodied. And I felt, like that was what I really needed to be able to then go into teaching. Because after that training, I got asked to stay and live in Bali and teach traditional Hatha yoga.
Sounds like a pretty sweet gig.
So obviously I said yes. And I just got to live out in Bali for a year and do every training that was happening there. I got to do my 300-hour and a yin training and a kids yoga teacher training and Ayurveda trainings. And so I was like really, really immersed in it all, like living, breathing, eating the yoga for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now it like all makes sense. Because when I was doing my first training, I was like, I don't know what my purpose is. I feel like I should know what my purpose is by now, but I have no idea. I've done so many things in my life. But now that I look back on it, everything that I was doing was like that stepping stone to where I am now, and I think is continuing to be this path of where I will end up going. And like that common through line through my dance career, through fitness, through being a makeup artist, is that I have this ability, I think, to make people feel and remember like how beautiful, how powerful, how just important and unique that they are. And I was doing that same thing, like that same messaging of what I feel like I'm able to bring out in people when I'm teaching yoga now is what I was doing when someone was in a makeup chair and I was just like, your eyelashes are so beautiful. Your skin is like amazing. And you know, like that whole time of like being with somebody and like touching them and like getting to have that moment where they were just getting really calm and really confident before they had to step in front of a camera and like take pictures that were going to help them to book the job of their dreams. And I was like, oh, for sure in those moments, I was doing that. It was just a different outlet of expression of how I was living my Dharma that I couldn't see. And it felt really unclear. And now I can look back and be like, oh, you've been doing it your whole life.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So it sounds like you had a big shift when you stopped valuing like the external validation so much and you went kind of soul searching to figure out how to connect with yourself, which you were able to do through your inner and outer explorations. And you really had like a deep connection and bond with yourself where you felt really like contented, like you weren't grasping at things at the outside anymore. And then the world started opening up more and more as you did that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important for everyone to fall in love with themselves at whatever stage they are in life. And it doesn't matter how old you are or if you did at one point, but if you're not right now, the one that is able to see that when you look in the mirror, then, you know, that's when we know there's work to be done. And mind you, it's not like, tick that off the box. I love myself, and every day is easy to do that.
Right.
Like it's something that we have to, at least for myself, I have to constantly do things to remind me of my magic and like my beauty and my power. And when I don't, I can feel that. I can feel myself get shaky and unsteady and insecure and hypercritical and all those things.
Like the hungry ghost. You start to then look for that outside, which you're supposed to be giving yourself.
For sure. And like the way that our society is set up, it is to get us to go back into that rhythm or that pattern of competitiveness and comparison and all of those things. And yeah, that's why all the social media and all that stuff is like this double-edged sword where we can find goodness in it. And there are really great tools. And also like turn off the notifications.
Yeah.
You put it down for a little while, you know?
Yeah, totally. It's definitely a double-edged sword. It is a new technology. Humanity is new with social media. We're basically toddlers with social media and how we use it. So I think we're still learning how to integrate it in a healthy way into our lives. But I want to go back to this idea of like being in love with yourself and talk about what that means, because I know what it means to me. And for me, it means having a relationship with the self. I view the self as a specific frequency that is always there, right? And it exists in everything, and you can experience it if you're present enough, right? So in those times where we're feeling lonely, we immediately go to social media or some kind of way to distract yourself. You're actually cutting yourself off from the relationship with the self. And you can just easily connect with the self by breathing to your diaphragm like 3 times really deliberately, right? And like filling yourself up and having it be always there. And I don't think that's because we're not supposed to connect with people, but it's because we're blessed to know that we always have what we need, no matter whether someone's around or not. Yeah. Right? It's a very subtle difference in how you're interacting, because I do feel like we came here to connect and to enjoy and to laugh and be silly, but there's a difference when it's enmeshed or like codependent or needy energy versus when you're showing up full with things to give. Nikki came over with some Ayurvedic deliciousness today that was so good, but that just was an overflowing of where you were already at. Like you were already in that vibe and you just had more to share, right? And I could receive that. And I feel like if we're doing what we love, learning about Ayurveda is something you love to do, then the things you love just overflow out into the world and you can share them with everybody else.
Yeah.
And then that way I can receive. And if I'm making sure I'm full, I'm not over here waiting, being like, well, I hope Nikki brings some food over here because I'm not gonna eat if, you know. It's like I take care of myself, and that was a bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think that that's so important when we are giving, that there's no sense of resentment with it, whether you ate it or didn't, or like it's just like, oh, I was gonna give it to you. If you're gonna eat it, I don't know what you're eating right now. If you're gonna just eat a carrot tonight, I'm not sure.
I at least have a garlic dip. She's being dramatic. Garlic dip and the carrot.
I mean, but you also got some amazing basmati rice and coconut garbanzo curry to have in your belly. And yeah, you're so right. Like, I think a lot of the times though, most people are pouring from empty cups most of the time. And yeah, I think that yoga, that meditation, whatever it is really, that gets you into that frequency of self is what we need, so that we're constantly getting resourced and not depleted and not constantly overexhausted and are barely getting by. Yeah.
Yeah, some practices that have really helped me with that is 2-minute journaling / reading at the end of the day. I started with that and it expanded because I started to enjoy doing it. But what I would do is I would get into bed and write out one thing I was grateful for that happened that day. And then just kind of like write a 1-sentence journal. Like I'd be like, okay, like Nikki came over and I spilled my incense everywhere. and
I didn't get upset.
Yeah. And then we had some figs, you know, and that could be my journal entry,
Fingers
right?
crossed we have some figs.
Do you think she's owned it? We're about to do an Instagram story poll and see if she earned the fig.
Do I earn my, how many figs is she gonna get?
But yeah, so then I'm just reflecting upon my day, and then I actually enjoyed doing that because then I would think through all these things. I'd be like, well, oh yeah, and I also did this, because this is actually like the second podcast I've done today, right? And I've had other cool business meetings that moved things along, and I finalized the contract, and I read the Sophia Code and felt really inspired. There's a lot of things that I actually enjoyed about my life that if I was just falling asleep on the couch, smoking a joint, watching Netflix, I'm not appreciating those things. So in that acknowledgement, presence, and appreciation of the beauty of my life that sometimes you're thinking is not beautiful or exciting enough because you're constantly comparing it to somebody, you know, getting married in Greece, then you can start to feel kind of shitty about your life. But those little times when you're just appreciating the present really helps you feel connected to self. And then the self makes itself known. It's just like if you're in a relationship, if I'm like, hey, Nikki, I appreciate you. That revitalizes you. You come alive with that. And I feel like the self comes alive when we express that appreciation. So then you have this palpable energy of the self that you can feel, and you recognize that you created that by having a conscious relationship with it. So then it becomes a little bit easier to maybe spend 5 minutes doing that, you know, or 10 minutes or whatever. And then that translates into how you feel when you wake up. And you're a little more likely to spend that 2 or 3, 5 minutes meditating because you know you're connecting with the self. And then if you're sourced in that relationship with self, when you go out into the world, then you're full, right?
Yeah.
And you're already operating from a certain frequency.
Yeah, totally. I feel like for me, that kind of inspired me because I used to do that. I used to do the gratitude, like little stuff at night, but I haven't journaled in a long time. So maybe I'll get back to that. But what I do enjoy that I'll typically do at the end of my day and maybe throughout the day is movement of some sort. So whether I'm just on my mat, stretching my hip out or something, or it's like music really, and I know you're called to this as well, like music really inspires me. And so if I have something on and like just dancing and just getting into my body, and I think there's something very like intrinsic about movement and dance, but because I have been a dancer, what it takes me back to is my days when I was in college and I was doing modern dance primarily. And you know, modern dance is like the most, I feel like, pedestrian of them all in some ways. So for me, that's what my movement ends up going back towards, is like how I was moving when I was in that time period of life. But I just think that it's like a really, sometimes the studying yoga and like there's quite a lot of, you know, it's a system, it's a science, and there's like ways to do it in order to reach a specific outcome, which I love about it. I love that like sciencey side of it. And I can get down with being like, all right, we're going to chant this mantra 108 times for 80 days. And we're going to, you know, like that stuff is great and has been life-changing. And also like just being like, I'm just going to move my body for 10 minutes. And then that might make me cry or laugh or whatever I feel. That's like a easy way without having to feel like I need to go through 500 hours of yoga teacher training to find myself.
Totally. And I've been on both of those paths of following strict discipline and also being intuitively guided by my own relationship with spirit. And that, you know, they have all these like different types of samadhi. I don't know if you've ever read about those where they talk about like nirvikalpa samadhi and this type of samadhi and this type of samadhi. But the highest one is when there's no separation. Like, you're not like, oh, I'm worshiping God, this is great. You just feel the frequency of it. I think what you're talking about when you're dancing is you're just feeling at one with everything by just doing whatever you feel guided to do. And I think that shouldn't be overlooked, you know, for how special that is, because that is the end goal. That experience and that feeling is why we're here.
Yeah, for sure, right? We want to just feel that more, like feel that connection more.
Yeah. Union with the present moment.
Yeah, non-duality, it's just is.
The isness. So, besides our classes and programs and memberships that we're creating, what's something that's lighting you up right now?
I think that is such a huge part of my life that I'm like, oh my gosh, what else am I doing in my day? But it always goes back to the ocean, I think, because the ocean is not a place of work for me as of yet. I really find a lot of healing and just playfulness and joy being in the water. I got to surf this morning. And so it was funny because I was kind of in like a quiet mood as I was paddling out, and I was with my best friend and he was not in a quiet mood. And so I felt like he was commenting on like the internal like verbiage of my mind. So I was paddling out, not saying anything, just like drinking it all in. And he's like, oh my God, isn't it so awesome? The water is perfect. The temperature, it feels so good. Look how smooth it is. Do you like the color? The color is like so, look how there's a bird. Like, no, it was just like saying so many things. Like his energy was just like really, really like extroverted in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just cracking up laughing because I was like, you're saying all the things that I'm feeling and thinking right now. I'm just internalizing them, and I'm like, oh, it feels so good to have my hands through this water right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of that, I was totally feeling. And there is just something I think that we all can relate to in that healing capacity of water, whether that's just like taking a shower or a bath at the end of the day and getting to cleanse and purify ourselves of what we don't want, you know?
Definitely my happy place.
Yeah, and so for me, after a few days, if I don't get to go in the ocean, I'm craving it. I'm like, oh, I don't care. I don't even care if I catch a wave. I just like need to like dip my body into that salt water and feel like revived. So I think, especially because I've been nursing an injury and I'm dealing with some like shoulder issues and I wasn't able to surf for 6 weeks, there's even more gratitude to it. So each paddle that I'm not in pain, I'm like, oh, thank you. I'm so grateful that I have my body, that I can use my body, that I live close to the ocean, like all of these things. Like it really, you know, it's so easy for us to take advantage of things, and having an injury or being unwell or sick or whatever those things are, like it really reminds you when things are good, like that's not always the way it is. So this morning especially, I felt really, really grateful that I got to connect to Mama Ocean and not be in pain, and just have like an hour of just doing something for no reason, no purpose. It's just for fun.
Yeah, the simple things, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you got to have that experience because I know you've been going through it for a while.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the blessings of when we don't feel 100%, because when we get back to it, then the simple things just feel so miraculous. We're just like, oh, thank you, you know?
Totally.
Hopefully I don't have to be infirmed for 6 weeks in order for me to appreciate this much, but here I am. Here we are.
Yeah. That's why it's like
riding the wave. Riding the wave.
As is life.
As is life. Well, I think that's probably good for today. Got to get a little glimpse into the soul of Nikki Nie over here. Yeah, you see why I enjoy her company so much. She's fun, thoughtful, and deep, and on her journey gracefully. So thank you for coming to share your energy.
My pleasure. Yeah. Thanks for the future figs that are about to go down.
A little presumptuous, I think.
Oh.
No, you definitely earned them.
Yay.
Okay. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't seen or taken some of Nikki's classes on the platform, then what better time than right now? All right, peace.
And for that is why I'm so inspired to keep sharing this beautiful feeling that has set my soul on fire. Looking forward to practicing with you, and I'll see you on your mat.